Brian Kelly admits what's wrong with LSU's offense, but can they fix it? Let's talk about it. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So with it being an open date week for LSU, Brian Kelly doesn't have his normal media availability. There was no Monday press conference. He will be on the SEC Coaches Teleconference on Wednesday, and he will meet with reporters on Thursday. But there was no Monday press conference, which typically happens after a game. So that was always generally the first time media speaks to Brian Kelly after the game, once he's had time to watch the film, dissect everything, and then turn the page to start preparation for the next week. Well, Brian Kelly did make his weekly appearance on the Feinbaum Show on Monday. And as you might imagine, it was not super feeling awesome about how the game went.
Weeks where, you're like, you know what? I'm glad we hung in there with them and, we had a chance to win at the end. That wasn't this kind of game. You're feeling like, this is a game that we needed to go and win. And I didn't get our guys in the right position and prepared enough. And then our big players got to go make plays when they're called upon. And so that's why there's a little bit more of a feeling like we'll have this thing going the right way, and we got to do it right away this week.
So they got the open date. We'll see how they can maybe use this open date to their benefit to get things going in the right direction. A lot of people didn't like what Kelly had to say in the post game, maybe felt like he was deflecting blame onto the players. He took full ownership of it. And quite honestly, I don't care what type of generic mindless comments come out of a post game press conference, usually, unless if there's a blow up like what happened after Florida. But there's one thing that Brian Kelly said in his interview on the Feinbaum Show that I thought was massively significant. Now, what I'm about to play for you is about a 30-second clip, but the first 5 seconds of this is what you need to hear, especially for the everydayers, and shout out to you everydayers. And if you didn't catch our previous episode, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you go back and check out the previous episode of this show, of this podcast, this YouTube channel. Go check out the previous episode where we talked about what was wrong with Garrett Nussmeier. We dissected everything from the lack of a running game to could it be his injury to his decision-making and all that. And ultimately it boiled down to one pretty key thing. And that's something Brian Kelly acknowledged when he was on the Feinbaum Show on Monday. Listen to this whole clip, but really, really, really dig in to the first 5 seconds.
I'll go back to, our preparation. We got, 85 to 90% drop 8. And I look at our plan and I didn't like our plan, and that falls.
I'm going to stop it. He says we got 85 to 90% drop 8. 85 to 90%. Here, drop 8. Drop 8 means 8 guys in coverage, 3-man rush. You understand that? Drop 8. 85 to 90% drop 8 against Ole Miss. 8.5 to 9 out of 10 plays against Ole Miss. Ole Miss was dropping 8 into coverage, rushing 3, dropping 8. Good luck throwing when they're dropping 8 into the second. Anyway, full cut. Here you go.
I'll go back to, our preparation. We got, 85 to 90% drop 8. And I look at our plan and I didn't like our plan, and that falls on us. That can't happen. And we've got to be prepared for everything and put our players in a position to succeed. So, yeah, some of the guys needed to have better performances. There's no doubt. But it falls on all of us to take a good look in the mirror and find out why we came up short in this game. And we came up short because our preparation wasn't exactly what it needed to be for this game. And then when we needed to make those plays, get off the field on third down or catch a deep ball, we didn't make those plays. So it's on coaches, it's on players, and we simply have to be more effective.
Okay. All that stuff about making plays and being more effective and whatever. The bottom line is he acknowledges there 85 to 90%. Go and watch the film. 85 to 90% of Ole Miss's defensive calls were drop 8. Rushing 3, dropping 8 into coverage. So how in the world, as a quarterback, can you throw when there's 8 defensive backs? By the way, coming up in just a little bit, you're going to hear from an All-American offensive lineman and one of the great quarterback analysts of this generation. You're going to hear from them and their deep-level explanations of this. That's coming up here in just a smidge. But I want to remind you of what transpired on Saturday. 11 of the first 14 plays that LSU ran were pass plays. 11 of the first 14. When 85 to 90%, not me saying it, I'm an idiot. I'm just a guy that yells loud on the radio. I'm a bald dude with a loud mouth who makes bad predictions. The head coach of LSU said 85, not me. LSU's head coach said Ole Miss ran 85 to 90% drop 8. Why then, if they're dropping 8 into coverage and you got a 3-man front, on your first 14 offensive snaps are 11 of them pass plays? Answer that. That's a problem. Look, and I don't know. Is this Joe Sloan? Maybe. Some of it, probably. I can also look at the first play of the second series, the 50-yarder to Xavier Thomas. I went and watched the end zone view. Xavier Thomas is lined up on the right side. He beats his man off the line. And immediately throws his hand in the air. He is gone. This is a touchdown. The safety is on the left side, the complete opposite side of the field. Nuss rears back to throw, and this is going to be a walk-in touchdown. Xavier beats his man off the line. He has him dusted. There is no safety help. This is lollipop, run under it, walk into the end zone, touchdown. First play of LSU second series. Instead, it ends up being a 50-yard gain because Nuss throws it toward the middle of the field. Xavier has to stop, come back to it, catch it. There's safety gets there by that time. Go back and watch the play. You can watch it. And you can say, oh, well, Nuss, his arm. He can't make the throw. What happened is Paul Mabenga got rocked by a twisting end that knocked him into Nussmeier's feet. So Nuss hops back, which is why the throw was short and inaccurate. That's an offensive line problem. Anyway, the point being, Brian Kelly, I want to take you back for just a second. 11 of your first 14 plays of the game were pass plays. This was Brian Kelly the Monday after LSU beat Clemson. Remember, nobody was complaining after LSU beat Clemson. Really good defensive front, efficient offensive day. Garrett was the National Offensive Player of the Week despite throwing for 230 yards, whatever it was. This was Brian Kelly the Monday after Clemson. Listen.
His management was outstanding. That's as good as he's been in terms of, getting us in the right run plays, making the right checks. As I said, I think he held the ball for no more than 2.2 seconds on an average. The ball came out quickly. That helps your offensive line. I thought he did that happens only when you have a veteran quarterback.
He said Nussmeier managed the run game perfectly. Understand what an RPO is. An RPO is a run with a pass option. You call a run play, and you have the option to pass. That's what an RPO is. Run, pass option. It's a running play with the option to throw a football depending on what the defense shows. And Kelly said after Clemson, Garrett managed the run game perfectly. And he did. The offense was super efficient. They were fantastic. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. It was a fantastic outing. So was Saturday against Ole Miss Joe Sloan just calling a bunch of pass plays? Or was it Nuss checking into passes out of RPOs? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. What I know is on a day where 85 to 90% of the defensive snaps had 3-man fronts, and you threw the ball 34 times, and you ran it 21 times, that should be inverted. That's a problem when it happens that way. And that's what cost LSU the game. And that's what they have to fix here in this open date. So why then are you throwing 34 times on a 3-man front? Why can't you block a 3-man front? Why? You are going to hear from an All-American offensive lineman on how they fix this and if they can fix it during this open date next on Locked on LSU, your team every day. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your computer or your phone, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. And I love how Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborates on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer ever gets left hanging. See why more than 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. And we're brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Trust isn't given, it's earned. And just like LSU athletes earn their success, Our Lady of the Lake health providers earn trust every day. As LSU's championship health partner, Our Lady of the Lake, part of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System, takes care of the Tigers on the field, on campus, and across Louisiana. Whether it's sports medicine, pediatrics, heart care, or helping you recover from everyday injuries, they bring championship-level commitment to every patient. You can trust the team that cares for the team you love. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU. That's ololrmc.com/LSU. So LSU's offensive line consistently was facing 3-man fronts against Ole Miss and consistently couldn't beat those 3-man fronts. So what happened in that game? And how in the world do they get through it? Will Blackwell is a former first-team All-American offensive lineman on one of the greatest offenses in LSU history, the 2011 Tigers, that, of course, were undefeated. We all know lost the national championship game. But the core of that team was running the football. It was a physical style of offense complemented by a great defense, which clearly this team is lacking. So I asked Will Blackwell, what is wrong with this offensive line?
It seems like there's some missed assignments. Now I know that we've got some new guys in there, and we've rotated a bunch. We don't really have a solid core that we've been working with for a few years, but it just everything seems awry. I don't see much push. I don't see guys like finishing to the whistle and blowing guys downfield. Another thing that bothers me about the way that they've run this offense is there is no creativity. And when I say that, I mean you don't see guys pulling. You don't see tosses to the outside. We're not trying to move these athletic linemen. So if we can't line them up and get push off the ball, we got to line them up and get them out in space and create some holes. I don't know if I've seen Joe Sloan run any what we used to call a horn balls, which would just be pull a guard or a tackle and toss it out to the side. There's no plan. It seems like we're just relying on Garrett to throw the ball, and as we've seen, that hasn't played out very well.
Notice Will Blackwell said there that it's a general mindset. He said there's missed assignments, but also a lack of creativity in the run game. Let me go to a missed assignment and a physical assignment. So just talking about the first play of the second series, the deep ball to Xavier Thomas would have been a walk-in touchdown, but Paul Mabenga gets knocked back into Garrett Nussmeier's feet, which is why Nuss hops back. That wasn't Nuss's shoulder or oblique or anything that people have said. Go watch the play. It's an end. Paul Mabenga is head up on a tackle. The tackle goes in toward the center. The end loops around. Mabenga doesn't see him, crushes Mabenga right into Nussmeier's feet. Nuss hops back, which is why that ball was off target and underthrown. Like, that is not knowing your assignment. That is not knowing that when the tackle goes in, you're getting pressure from your left. Never turns his head around, gets crushed. Then look at the 2-point conversion. People have crushed Joe Sloan for the 2-point conversion. I didn't love the play call, but if you go back and watch it, Tyree Adams, your left tackle, completely and utterly whiffs his block, which gets Juwan Johnson killed. And actually, as you look at the way it sets up, Juwan Johnson is going to have a lane to walk into the end zone, except for the fact that your left tackle, Tyree Adams, gets him killed. So is that play call? Is that scheme? Or is it inability of an offensive lineman? Or is it an offensive lineman not knowing his assignment? It's Tyree Adams didn't know he was supposed to block. He whiffs on the end and he crushes Juwan Johnson, and everyone crushes the play call. You can blame the play call if you want. Maybe they should have thrown the football instead of running in that situation if you don't trust your line. But the bottom line is, go look at the play and you'll see why it didn't work. So maybe the most important thing that I asked Will Blackwell, who really hammered down on the point of this being an attitude. Running the football is an attitude. You can't just decide when you don't do it that you're all of a sudden gonna do it. It's something that he talked about. They practiced all throughout fall camp where they just ran power and power and power. That ultimately, when they got the games felt easy relative to all the work they had done to prepare for it and the mentality of moving other human beings who are not, or you were trying to move them against their will. So I asked Will Blackwell, can they fix it?
I don't know, Matt. That's a good question. I mean, attitude, it's mostly mental, and it's one of those things that, we never kind of had to worry about when Coach Moffitt was there. I don't know what the off-season program or camp is like, but, man, we went so hard in June, July, in August that by the time we got to September, we felt like we got a break. Playing a game during game week was way easier. And, looking back on it, I think that was part of the building process of the mentality of, hey, I don't care if we don't get a yard on this play. We're going to get 3 yards next play or 4 yards next play. And you have to have that I'm going to put you in the ground, just mean, dirty, nasty mentality to be able to run the football. And I just don't see that out of anybody on this line.
The mentality of the lineman, but the other thing Will said there that was important was, I don't care if we get a yard on this play. We're going to get 4 yards on the next play. That is a commitment to running the football. And that is what is largely lacking. Like, I'll very quickly, I'm going to do this blind. I haven't looked at this yet. We'll do this cold. I chart, if you're watching, I have a yellow legal pad here. I chart every LSU game. I chart every play of every game. Let's look at let's see how many times LSU ran the football in consecutive plays. First drive, 7-yard pass to Bauer Sharp that was reviewed, overturned, incomplete. Xavier Thomas, 4-yard run. The next down, 3rd and 6, incomplete pass punt. First down was the next drive. First down, deep ball to Xavier Thomas. Then they went Aaron Anderson, 7-yard pass. Barian Brown, 3-yard reception. First down, Juwan Johnson, -1. The next down was the touchdown pass that was deflected to Nick Anderson. LSU's third series. Barian Brown pass. Xavier Thomas pass. Pass, but they get bailed out on the PI. Pass to Chris Hilton. 1st and 5, Barian Brown runs for 9 yards. The next down, interception. Through 3 series, they have not run the ball in consecutive plays. 4th series, incomplete pass, Xavier Thomas run, and then it's pass play, but not scrambles for 1 yard. So it was a pass called play, and that's whenever they grabbed his shirt. So they did run back-to-back plays there, but it was not a called run play. LSU's next drive, pass. On 3rd and 20, Caleb Jackson, 10-yard run. And then the final drive of the first half, pass, run, pass. The only time in the entire first half, and I just did that blind, I hadn't prepped that. The only time the entire first half they ran the ball on consecutive plays was a run followed by a Garrett Nussmeier scramble for 1 yard. The only time they ran the ball on consecutive plays in the first half. How in the world can you run the ball if you don't commit it, if you don't commit to running the football? That is the problem. And if that's Joe Sloan calling the plays or Garrett Nussmeier checking out of the run plays into passes, I don't know that answer, but there has got to be a better commitment to running the football. And if you don't commit to running the football, you're going to continue to see teams rush 3, drop 8, as Brian Kelly said, 85 to 90% of the defensive snaps from Ole Miss were drop 8 coverage. So now, what does that mean for a quarterback? Had a chance to talk to Sean Salisbury about that very thing. Sean Salisbury, who was one of the highest recruits in the country, played at Southern Cal, played in the NFL, the CFL, and one of the best analysts you'll find anywhere talking quarterbacks, and still to this day tutors elite-level quarterbacks as a quarterbacks coach who knows the quarterback position of the game of football as well as anybody that I've spoken to. I asked Sean Salisbury that question exactly, and you'll hear his answer when we come back on Locked On LSU, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, I've tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com. We have talked so much in this episode about what Brian Kelly acknowledged on Monday, that LSU, for 85 to 90% of the snaps, were facing drop 8 coverage. Again, that's 3-man rush, 8 in coverage. So think about this from a quarterback's perspective. Forget whatever you think, whatever you came to this episode today, thinking about Garrett Nussmeier, injury, arm, oblique, whatever. Check all that at the door, okay? Just for this moment. And think about it this way. If you're a quarterback, you have 5 men on the line of scrimmage, and you're the quarterback 6. That means at most, you have 5 people that are eligible receivers going out for a pass. And they've got 8 covering your 5. You don't have numbers. It is going to be crowded. 8 and 5, that's 13 people out in pass patterns. That's crowded. You don't have throwing lanes. You don't have man coverage. You don't have guys open. It is challenging to throw the football downfield when that's the case because you don't have clear lanes, and it can be frustrating. So I asked Sean Salisbury about that. I said, and I asked him in a way, whenever you're a quarterback and you're facing, that type of coverage, what's it like whenever you have this imbalance, right? Where you are only running the ball on 21 snaps, throwing it 34 when you're facing that type of front.
I was bothered by a little bit of the plan this week, and I didn't know the percentage. You could tell they were dropping into coverage because it's a good quarterback, and you felt make him go through his reads and see if they'll not be greedy. And the oldest cliche in the book is take what they give you. Well, take what they give you means run it downhill. Now, I don't know if that means that LSU is concerned about a couple injuries on the offensive line. They got manhandled at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, which isn't typical LSU in my mind now. I know the offensive line's got to play better, but they had their way with LSU's defense this week, not even in the point total, but just with balance. Lane did run it. They run off from 170 yards or something, and the backup quarterback played good football. I can't make sense of it, Matt. I'd love to. You know my affinity for LSU Tigers and for Nussmeier, and maybe that's part of it. Nuss has not played up to the expectations I think we all have, and I hold out hope that he will. Now, whether that's a combination of line play, game plan, execution in the run game, but the fact that they can't run it, and we know Ole Miss has gotten more physical. Now, if you'd have told me going into this game, and you'd never watched football other than knowing the reputation of teams, and you told me that they were going to get physically punched in the face, I'd have said, LSU, that doesn't happen that often. Well, It happened to an Ole Miss team because most of the time our perception of Ole Miss is what? They want to run it, but they're finesse. We get that feeling of it. But Lane wants to run it. Trust me. Sarkisian wants it. Guys from that system, Mike Leach, they want to run it. But when you make them throw, they're usually pretty efficient at it because of all the formations and window dressing they give you. I was surprised by it. And then when you do that and you're throwing it more than you're running it when they're dropping 8, one is you got to have a game. You got to have a come to Jesus, game plan check. 2 is you're putting the quarterback in a bind to try to do more than he needs to. And it's hard to be patient for 4 quarters in any league, let alone in this one, when they're controlling it, running the football a lot and getting chunks. And every series, even though it was close, you're pressured into, okay, I got to make more plays. And I'm not making excuses for Nussmeier. Plus, when he gets chewed out by Brian, which seemed to happen a bunch, he met him on the sidelines. I think he does that because he knows Nussmeier is tough-minded and can handle it. That being said, I thought their game plan was average at best. I thought they were physically pushed around, which I never would expect, even with the woes on the offensive line of LSU. And the optics were ugly, and the game plan and the end result matched. It was beyond me. Sometimes in a one-score game, you're thinking, well, let's stick to the game plan. And if the game plan is going in, if they drop 8, maybe they were real. I didn't hear Brian's talk if they were confused by it or didn't approach it. But it's like when you play 2 high safeties, and that's not even dropping 8. If you play 2 high safeties and you're rushing 4 in the pass rush, you're getting involved in the run game. When you got 2 high safeties back, they're begging you to run it. Now, when you're dropping 8, they're begging you, whether it's the check down game or whether it's the run game, you got to be able to move piles, and they weren't. And it was a hard watch. I was actually shocked by the physical nature which LSU got pushed around this past Saturday.
Okay, now we have all established at this point, if you're still with us, and thank you, we're 25 minutes into this episode, we've all established what happened on Saturday. Ole Miss rushed 3, drop 8 the whole game. Despite that, LSU consistently threw the football into 8 men in coverage and couldn't run the football. Not only couldn't, didn't even try to run the football. In the first half, they had 9 rushing attempts, only 2 to running backs. The 1-yard loss by Juwan Johnson, the draw on 3rd and 10 to Caleb Jackson that got 10 yards. At no point in any of their first half drives did LSU run the ball on consecutive plays. There was no attempt to run the football. Whether that was Nuss checking out of plays, whether that was Joe Sloan's play calls, don't know. Okay, that's something we don't know because we don't know the call. We're not on the headset. Now, what I'm about to play for you, I'm going to warn you, okay? I'm giving you the heads up. What I'm about to play for you is completely unfiltered. This is uncut, unedited. This is 5 minutes of Sean Salisbury, okay? I'm going to play for you a 5-minute clip, all right? So I'm warning you. So if you're driving, if you're not thinking about it, I want you to focus. Maybe you're on a jog, wherever you are. Just understand what I'm about to play for you is a 5-minute clip. This isn't 30 seconds that I'm coming back to talk about it. I need you to prepare yourself to listen, not just hear it, to listen for these 5 minutes. Because I asked Sean effectively 2 things. I said, as a quarterback, what's it like trying to throw when they're dropping 8? And also, I asked him if he noticed Garrett Nussmeier physically look different, because that's been all the conversation. Well, he's not stepping into throws. He doesn't have the zip, the accuracy, downfield, yada, yada. I said, so again, did you notice anything physically different with Nussmeier? That's the end of this answer. But the first part is Sean Salisbury explaining what it's like for a quarterback trying to throw when a team is rushing 3 and dropping 8.
Very, and that's the thing. What defensive coordinators' philosophy is when you go in with that, and the NFL and college level, their thought process is, and what's one thing that we've always talked about Nuss? Guts, right?
Yeah.
He ain't afraid to take a chance. And Kiff knows that. Lane knows that 100%. So you go into a game, and they're well coordinated on both sides of the ball, is Ole Miss. When you go into a game like that, when you balance it out and drop 8 people, and even if you were able to get out, which you should, if they're dropping 8, your 5 should be able to handle their 3.
Yes.
And if you can't, then you got a major issue. It's inexcusable at any level for 5 guys not to be able to handle 3, whether it's sacks or pressures. They add up. You just absolutely have to, which means you better get 5 out. Running back, tight end, 3 wides, 4 wide receivers, running back. I don't care what your personnel grouping is. And what you have to get 5 out. And if you have to keep a guy in with 5 out, it's an embarrassment to your offense. It just is. Now, moving forward. Now, think about it. When they're dropping out and they're dropping 8, and you've got all the underneath stuff, and you're dropping, whether you're playing too high, dropping 8, or whether you're playing off in quarters. I don't want to get too technical with people that you have to explain it because you can't draw it up right now. But sure. It's very difficult. And what defensive coordinators' philosophy is, they're willing to bet that you're not willing to go 3 series, 75 yards, and check the ball down. Now, when you get to your brilliance, and you guys there in Louisiana have seen it a million times. When Drew Brees was there, he was willing to do it, the NFL level. Shallow cross, check down, check down, check down. And then the defense finally says, oh, that's 8. That's 2 series in a row where he's been willing to methodically go down the field. Because you all want to have the guts and you want to fit it in a tight window. That's the quarterback position. If the guy's got any guts, show me a quarterback without guts, I'll show you a guy who shouldn't be playing the position. But it's got to be judicious when you are doing that. So what happens is Then you start to check it down. They got to come up and make a tackle. 4-yard gain, 3-yard gain, 5-yard gain, which to me, 5, 4, and 3 adds up to 12 yards. That's a first down. But what happens, and if you'll do that, what they do, and Breeze and Manning were so good at it, Brady as well, to be able to, linebacker's tired of driving on the ball and making a tackle in the open field. Bam. They jump it the next time. Then you can hit your plays down the field. But they are banking on the fact that you're eventually going to make a mistake. Either hold the ball too long, your offensive line's been struggling, you're banged up, or you're going to try to force one because you're tired of checking it down and you guess, you pre-snap guess it. So you take shots, ball gets knocked down, 3 and out. And then when you run the ball 2 times in the first half, hell, if I was going in at halftime, and halftime adjustments can be overrated, if you saw that and you're Ole Miss, what are you saying? They don't have the patience or the wherewithal today to run the ball. And they don't think they're good enough to do it. So keep dropping 8. Their best players under center. Make it miserable on him to have to make completions. That's 1. 2, I did not see, for the naked eye, and maybe you did, Matt, but and I watched the whole game, I did not see anything visible to me that would say physically, but you could tell the frustration of the impatience and the frustration of what he was going through, which it's normal for a quarterback, but you've got to fight it. You're not fighting coverage, then you got to fight yourself. Whether you like the game plan, whether you like the decisions, whether you like what's going on, whether you've lost trust somewhere, you still got to force yourself to elevate everybody else. And if that means throwing 6 checkdowns, you absolutely have to do it because you will get yourself in trouble. And Matt, if you're drawing it up, trying to fit 4 or 5 receivers into dealing with 8, we always play the numbers game in sports and in football. We're always taught to play the numbers game. You got 3, I want my 3 on your 2. You got 4, I'm going the other way. I want my 3 on your 2. Opposite rotation, wherever it is. But when you're dropping 8, where is that? Where's that hole? Where's that hole? They're begging you to run the football and check it down. And if you don't do either, and you're not patient enough to do either, you're in major, major trouble. And then what happens as a quarterback, you get so tired of it. Like I said, you think, I got to take a shot because whether it's boring, we're not making enough chunk plays out of it. So you almost will yourself to make it a throw down the field. And that's when you get in trouble. And I could see the frustration on Nussmeier's face, but I couldn't see if there was anything physically wrong. Now, if that question is persisting this week, Matty, I will tell you this, as good as we think he can be and to elevate and how tough he is, if there is something wrong and you are limiting him into that he can't push it down the field or the ball's not coming out like you want it to, then you absolutely have to have the guts as a coach to say, then even at 80%, if he's better, we have got to make a change. I'm not suggesting bench him, but if he's physically, difference between being hurt and being injured. Hurt, you play. Injured, it's too much. And that's for them to decipher because I'm not in the medical business, but I can tell you this, it looked like a confused, obviously not balanced, but a frustrated, even Brian himself looked frustrated and impatient, and that permeated through the whole team. And then on the other side, when you're watching your defense get gashed in a run game and them, running the football and committing to it, and you getting physically pushed around, which is not the nature of LSU, especially on that side of the ball, it wasn't a good thing. And they had their ass handed to them this weekend. They did, even though the score said closer, they got pushed around at Ole Miss, and it was a very, very difficult game to watch if you're an LSU fan. Frustrating.
Sean, so you can have all the conversation you want about Garrett Nussmeier's health. Nuss won't talk about it. Kelly says he's fine. Brian Kelly said after the bye, he would need the bye to shut it down and feel great. Whatever. Have all the speculation you want. I don't care. I'm done talking about the speculation. Until we have something concrete to go on, not speculating anymore. Nussmeier's playing. What I know is the head coach said Ole Miss was dropping 8. And you just heard an All-American offensive lineman talk about the inability of the offensive line to block a 3-man front. And one of the great quarterback coaches in minds say how difficult it is to not get frustrated throwing against drop 8 coverage. And consistently, we saw Garrett Nussmeier get frustrated, make bad decisions against Ole Miss. And he did. The interception was a bad decision. The throw to Travis Green that was almost picked was a bad decision. He had people falling at his feet. It was a really rough watch offensively. So, what's the conclusion of all this? To me, it's really easy. It is a commitment to running the football. And it's so weird because for a decade, Les Miles was the coach at LSU and everybody just craved the forward pass. And it seems like now LSU's has gone the opposite direction. You have to find a balance. We know Garrett Nussmeier is capable. These receivers are capable. There's skill everywhere on this LSU team. But when you're facing a three-man front on 85 to 90% of the snaps, and you throw it 34 times and you run it 21, that's an imbalance that should be flipped. And that's got to change when LSU plays South Carolina a week from Saturday. Get healthy and commit to running the football. That'll do it for us here. Hey, do me a favor and drop your comments. I always appreciate that. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.